Out there, I think there are a lot of new exhibitors here this year, which is great to see. We've just, as you said, come fresh from the show at Prague, which is a great success for us. We're looking forward to going back there this year, and we're certainly going to be here in London next year as well. So.
You know, everyone's always talking about the economy, aren't they, and saying doom and gloom, things are all falling apart. And yet, there is so much excitement going on in aviation. All these LSAs, there's new models coming out all the time. Absolutely,
no, we're very, very pleased with it ourselves. We've noticed over the course of this year, everyone's been saying, oh, it's a recession, it's going to be a terrible year. We've had none of that in aviation. I suppose if there was one downside, it might be the commercial side, but actually they're all coming out of that as well now. So the guys that are going into the commercial schools that want to be ATPL, you know, flying for British Airways, flying for Ryanair, they're all coming into the system now. They're all going to be fine because they're all going to have jobs at the end. So it really is a good time for aviation.
It's actually almost a pause to take a breather and then just get yourself trained up and get ready. It's those people that don't train now that I wonder about, because they're going to be missing the opportunity when their airlines are crying out for new jobs.
Absolutely, they really are.
Talking about the aircraft out there, I mean, you've obviously had a little look at some of those things out there. I mean, anything really catch your eye out of the new ones? Well, you know, we've talked about the old ones before, but the new stuff.
Certainly. I mean, you know, you've got to go and have a look at the Czech sport aircraft out there. You know, the sports cruisers, they are absolutely stunning aircraft. And this is really the way that aviation, as I see it, is going these days. You know, it's the lighter aircraft. You know, they're a lot easier to fly, as you were saying in your introduction. They really are. So that's really the kind of aircraft that we're looking at, and we're going to be creating products to go with those aircraft. And that's, you know, it's a lower cost form of training. It means it costs less to get into aviation now than it did before in real terms. So yeah, you know, now's the time to get in there, and there are some fantastic aircraft to fly. Definitely.
What about the future? I mean, what would you like to see happening with aviation now? Obviously, we need to get more people to realise that these new aircraft are out there. That's probably one of the biggest things. I mean, that's what we're trying to do with this show, is to explain to people what's happening. But where would you like to see aviation going over the next sort of 10, 20 years?
I think, certainly from a manufacturer's point of view, you know, there's a lot of new aircraft coming in, but it's always a challenge to get these young guys into aviation and enthusiastic. And also, and you mentioned again in your introduction about women, you know, only 8% of women are pilots, and that's a terrible figure, you know. So we really want to encourage that. There are a lot of new organisations that are springing up here, there and everywhere that are encouraging people to come into aviation, and that's really great to see. What we want to see is a bit of cohesion between all these different groups. You know, they're all trying and they're all doing, they've got so much energy, so many volunteers, and it would be really, really good if we can get them all together and all working together, you know, as one. It would be great to see.
It's a very exciting time.
It really is. It really
Sebastian, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, no problem
and I'm just trying to remember exactly what I'm doing. Oh, how can I forget what we're going into next?
Absolutely.
Cirrus SR22. I explained it all in my introduction to this piece, but it really is the Lexus of the skies.
Most people have probably heard of Cirrus because he really have revolutionised the way that aircraft look and made some of these rather old aircraft that people see down the airfields, changed them into something modern and exciting. This is the model that really sums it up, the SR22, I suppose. What is it, the philosophy about the design and what you've done with that?
You know, it's hard to imagine, but the first Cirrus got delivered less than 10 years ago, and there's now 4,000 or so in the fleet. What we think it is that we've approached this by thinking about, not about piloting and about airplanes, but about personal transportation. In fact, we started using the term recently, flying 2.0, to try to separate what we do at Cirrus from everything else.
The traditional stuff, isn't it?
Exactly.
Let's be honest here. There's a lot of old rust buckets flying around airfields, aren't there? And we needed to bring it up to date. Come on, we did.
I'm not going to go there. No, you're absolutely right. 10 years ago, that was the beginning. You'll believe it or not, 10 years ago there wasn't really an internet. That was the beginning of the era where electronics could start to do things for you, where we could think in practical terms about reducing pilot workload, of decreasing the stress level, so that you can actually fly a Cirrus for 800 nautical miles through a couple of weather systems, unassuming